Hey, I'm Adam with Wings and Wheels, and today we're going to be talking about the basic functions of the LX8000 and LX9000 flight computers. These flight computers are going to help you fly more efficiently and increase your overall performance as a pilot, but they're not going to be very much help if you don't know how to use them. So in this series, I'm going to be breaking down the manual in an easily understandable form so you'll be able to operate the LX8000 and 9000 flight computers. The first chapters of the manual explain the basics of the LX8000 and 9000, as well as the technical hardware data. But before we discuss any of that, let's go over the flight computer's main features. The LX8000 and 9000 software is the exact same. The only difference between the two series is that the LX8000 comes in smaller circular and square shapes, while the 9000 series comes in larger rectangular shapes. The LX8000 comes in two versions, the circular LX8030 and the square LX8040. The LX9000 series flight computers are significantly larger than the LX8000 and come in three versions, the LX9000, the LX9050, and the LX9070. All 9000 series flight computers are rectangularly shaped, with the difference being the size, with the smallest being the LX9050 and the largest being the LX9070. Both the LX8 and 9000 have second seat repeater options, and they can both integrate FLARM. But keep in mind that the integrated FLARM frequency is European only, and for North America, you need an external FLARM device connected. All LX8 and 9000 flight computers come with a variometer, with the default vario being the 57mm V8. You have the option to switch this out with the larger version, the 80mm V80 vario, and the mechanical V9. Let's go over what comes in the box with these flight computers. Starting with the LX9000, you will find the LX9000, 9050, or 9070 display, the chosen vario, which can be between the V8, V80, or V9 mechanical vario, the power cable for the main display. If we look at it a little bit closer, you'll find a big plug labeled DU. This is going to go into the back of your flight computer and provide power to it. This splits off into a smaller plug that is either going to plug into your vario cable or into an RS-485 splitter if you have a remote stick. You'll see two wires coming out of this harness, and those are going to go to your power source. And finally, you'll see a circular 5-pin cable that goes to a FLARM. Moving on to the vario cable, you'll find that it has a big plug that goes into the back of the variometer and then splits off into an RS-485 plug, which can either go into the main power cable or it can go into an RS-485 splitter if you have a remote stick. You'll also find a bunch of wires coming out of this harness, and these are for the digital inputs. You'll also find a larger cable coming out of the harness, and this is your outside air temperature sensor. Moving on, you'll also find an SD card, the vario speaker, a barogram calibration chart, a GPS antenna, a FLARM antenna if you have integrated FLARM into your flight computer, and a USB stick containing the digital version of the manual. You will find similar items in the LX8000 box, those being the LX8030 or 8040 display unit, the chosen vario between the V8, V80, or V9, the power cable for the main display, and the cable for the vario. These are going to be the same as the LX9000. Moving on, you'll also find an SD card, the GPS antenna, a Wi-Fi antenna, the vario speaker, and a USB stick containing the digital version of the manual. Let's get started on how to actually use these flight computers, starting with the basic functions. Now, all the information I'm about to show can be found in the LX8 and 9000 manual, which I've linked in the description below. All right, so let's get started on powering on the flight computer. You can do this by holding the power button until the screen flashes, and you'll see it start booting up. You're then going to be prompted to select a profile. Just click select and then set your elevation. Now let's go over how you can navigate through your flight computer. To start, you can see 4 knobs on the corners of the flight computer, each having their own unique function. To start, this bottom right knob is your page selector. If we turn it, you can go through the different pages of each mode. Speaking of the modes, if we go to this top right knob, we can scroll through each different mode. There are 7 in total. Right now we are on waypoint, but if I turn this knob, we'll scroll through to task, logbook, setup, info, near, airport, and we are back to waypoint. This top left knob is the volume knob. So if I scroll this all the way up, you can hear the Vario going. I'm going to turn that all the way down for now. And then finally, this bottom left knob is the zoom knob. So if I turn this here, you'll see I start zooming into where we are now. Turn it the other way, and we are zooming out. You'll see that there are buttons on the bottom and the top of the flight computer, and these are the function buttons. Depending on what mode you're in, the buttons may have a long press function. So when you tap one of the buttons, you can see that these menus will appear telling you what the buttons do. And this power button here is also a function button. So don't be afraid to press it. So if I press the power button, it's going to hit more, and it's going to give me all of my options here. Now, if you have LX Touch, you can use your finger instead of the knobs and buttons. So if I wanted to go to map, I could click map right here. Oh. And I'm in my map settings. You can also use your finger to swipe through the different pages. Now I'm on task. Now I'm on logbook. This is only with the LX Touch function though. You can use the buttons and switches to edit multiple functions on your flight computer. So let's start with editing the text. There will be multiple instances where you will need to type directly into your flight computer. You can start doing this by pressing the edit button and then clicking the button labeled KBD to bring up the keyboard. Now you can use the zoom selector to go right and left, and then you can use the page selector to move your cursor down and up. Now to select a character, you're just going to move your cursor to the one that you want and then click select. If you want to delete a character, move your cursor to the backspace, click select, and there you can delete a character. Now, if you want to insert uppercase characters, you need to switch what mode you are in. So right now I am in the uppercase ABC mode. So the first letter of every word is going to be uppercase. So I'll select this, and then you'll see that all the other letters are going to turn lowercase. Let's just back this out now. Now, if you want all of your characters to be uppercase, then you just got to press this button here, the ABC, and press this here until you reach the all uppercase ABC, and every single letter that you choose is going to be uppercase. Now, you can also do this and have them all lowercase. You just got to change this to the lowercase ABC. And then if you want to access special characters, press this button one more time. You'll access the SYM page, and this is going to give you all of the special characters. You can also edit text outside of the keyboard menu. To start, let's select what we're going to edit, and then you can use this character button to advance your cursor forward. Or you can just use the zoom selector to scroll through the characters. Kind of like the keyboard menu, you have the ABC function up here. This is going to determine if your characters are uppercase or lowercase. So let's change this to uppercase, and we can use the page selector to change our character, just like so. And you can see that any character that we change to is uppercase. And if we select lowercase, any character that we change is lowercase now. You can also delete characters by pressing the delete button, then insert a character, and this is when insert a character to the right by pressing the insert button. Now let's change this back to an M, and then select OK. You also have the ability to edit the colors and fonts of certain pages. The example that I'm going to give is editing the colors on the map and terrain page. So to get there, we can click the map button, go to advanced, and then select map and terrain. Now to start, let's navigate over to the fill color right here. We can do that by just scrolling through with our page selector and then clicking edit. Now we can edit the transparency of the fill by scrolling through with the zoom selector. You'll see that it gives us a percentage of the transparency and then slowly gets darker or lighter as we scroll through. And then you can change the color with the page selector. So we can just scroll through and we can select the different colors. If you want to get really specific with your colors, then you can just select pick and pick your color through here. Now the fonts work very similar to editing the colors. So if we go all the way over to font style and color and click edit, we can use the zoom selector to edit the color. And then we can use the page selector to edit the font. And just like the fill, you can select pick and select detailed colors through there. Now there's one more thing you can edit on this page, and those are the borders here. And they work very similarly to how the fill and the font did. Just click edit. You can use the zoom selector to pick the type of line, and you can use the page selector to select the width. Now those are just a few ways that you can use the buttons and knobs to edit functions in your flight computer. But before we end the video, let's go over how to power off your flight computer. Now you never want to abruptly cut power to your flight computer because this can result in the operating system corrupting. There are three methods in which you can power off your flight computer. The first is to navigate to the off function. If we pull up our menus here, click more one more time, and then you can see off right here. Select off, select yes, and then you'll get this message saying that your flight computer is shutting down. Now, the second way that you can power off your flight computer is by holding the power button for 4 seconds. So if I hold down the power button, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're going to see this message appear, and that is when you need to let go of the power button. Once you see that message, let go, and the flight computer will go through its normal shutdown sequence. Now, the third way to shut down your flight computer is a hard shutdown. The way that you can do this is by holding the power button for 10 seconds and not letting go until the flight computer completely shuts down. Now, we do not recommend doing this unless you absolutely have to, unless you can't shut down your flight computer any other way, because in doing this, you risk corrupting the operating system. Now, these are just the basic functions and controls of the LX8000 and 9000. In the next videos, we will be going over even more complex functions of your flight computer. Alright, well that is going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to stay tuned for more tutorials on the LX8 and 9000. If you don't already have one of these flight computers and are interested in one, I've linked our website in the description below where you can learn more. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.